Well, all right. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. You too, Pastor Dowell here. Well, you all know, especially if you listen to me any length of time whatsoever at all, I do not need to get on here and just to tell you how heinous or morally reprehensible, both naturally, spiritually, all the way around, I don't need to tell you how deceptive, how much betrayal, how many falsehoods, how many lies, that the doctrine and the religion of Christianity has done over the years. I don't have to tell you how morally reprehensible it is, because it's just nothing but it's a created religion. And I know I'm making a lot of enemies on this, but all I'm going to ask you to do is rather than getting mad and upset, because if you're deceived, nobody, look, you're not going to tell yourself you're deceived. The people who you go to church with is not going to tell you that you're deceived, because you're all in the same boat, all in the same ship. You know what I mean? And the deception runs deep. It runs deep, especially when you can get to the point where you can believe lies and fairy tales as if it is gospel truth, if I can use that. But if you notice, there's been a lot of mainstream preachers that has made millions, upwards of billions of dollars, selling people a lie. One of them that made millions of dollars that fleeced the people all over the place was the Left Behind series, that they said there's going to be a rapture of the church before the Great Tribulation, and there's going to be 7 years of tribulation. And anyway, a lie. I remember when I first read the Bible, and I read over in Matthew chapter 24, verse 29. I want you to read it for yourself, but it clearly says that immediately after the tribulation of those days. But I sat there and I read the Bible, and that's the difference between me and a lot of preachers, a lot of pastors, is that just because somebody preaches something and they teach something in these seminary schools, that don't make it true. I mean, when you think about 1 Thessalonians 5:21, the onus is on each and every single one of us individually. We are the ones that's charged to prove all things and to hold fast to that which is good. We are. But very few people do that. They just assume that just because mom and daddy grew up in a certain religion that makes it right. That doesn't make it right. How do you know it's right? Well, mama believed, daddy believed, mama, me, ma, he, haw, paw, paw, they all believed, and they were Baptist bred, Baptist born, Baptist, all that stuff. Hey, you don't know. You're not the judge, or the jury, or the executioner, and neither am I. But I do know this. You don't know what their end was after the breath left their body. But I do know what the book says, that the blessed ones are. The blessed ones are the ones who keep the commandments. And these are the ones that's going to have their right to the tree of life. And these are the ones that are going to enter into the gate into the city. The ones who keep the commandments. And that's not taught too much today. As a matter of fact, so many doctors out there teaching against keeping the commandments. But there's a big one out there that everybody seems to be jumping on. And let me set the record straight. Benny Hinn and Clefto Dollar has come out of the woodwork and has admitted that their prosperity doctrines and their teachings has been nothing but fabricated lies in order to fleece the people, fleece the flock of God, of millions and millions of dollars, religiously extorted from him. But hey, you did give it though, didn't you? You were deceived. And I just heard Clefto Dollar with my own ears say that whatever books, whatever teachings that he has ever taught on tithing and giving, get rid of them all. Then he justified all of it by saying, if I didn't go this route, I would never know the message of repentance or the message of the gospel. Amazing, isn't it? See, Benny Hinn, he getting old, he getting ready to cross over, so I figured that after he's done live a lavish lifestyle, and done sported himself all over the place, along with Kenneth Copeland, they're getting old. They're getting ready to cross over. And they become millionaires and billionaires and stuff and living high. I guess it's the time to go ahead and try to get the record right before you get up out of here. And I keep telling y'all that the Most High Yah is not mocked. He is no fool whatsoever at all. But I will tell you this. Now you've got everybody out here from the Christian community all upset, and the Hebrew Israelite community, and everybody want to jump on this tithing thing. Well, first of all, let me set the record straight. Now listen, I'm going to give you what you need for study. I'm not going to sit up here and quote every single chapter and verse because it does no good. Unless you are motivated enough to do your own due diligence. Unless you are motivated enough and you're sick and tired of being deceived to do your own independent research. What I give you, this little bit I give you, which is going to be plenty for you to go research and study for yourself. If you're not motivated enough to do that, then I can't help you. I mean, you're still in the same old condition. You can sit and point the finger all day long at Clefto, Dowell, and Benny Hinn, but the truth is, you were deceived. And the book says, let no man deceive you by any means. That's what it says. But you were deceived. So you need to take part in ownership of that deception. And I'm surprised that people haven't just fled those assemblies left and right in order to at least try to save themselves. There's been people, there's been professionals, and that's got caught up in the Hebrew Israelite movement. And mind you, I'm an actual Israelite. But I'm talking about these One West doctrines out here that has nothing to do with the scriptures whatsoever at all. And many of them made a lot of money, end up getting fleeced even by them. It's just sad. But let me set the record straight. I'm going to say it a second time, may say it 2 or 3 more times. Listen, tithing in the scriptures, in the Torah, in the law, remember, back then, money wasn't Federal Reserve notes. Money was kasef, silver, cattle, sheep, livestock, lands, wine, stuff like that. That's what was real money. Abraham was rich because he had lands, he had servants, he had cattle. Job was a very wealthy man because he had servants, he had cattle, he had sheep, he had goats, he had oxen, and that's what made him a wealthy man. He had kasef, silver, he had gold, not Federal Reserve notes. So a lot of people want to try to jump on this bandwagon and try to say, well, I told you so, told you so, told you so. But let Pastor Dowell take it just one step further, okay? I want to show you that everybody that wants to jump out here and jump on this tithing thing and think that they comprehend and understand and know exactly what it is and what it's not. Because remember, the Most High God did command for Israel to give 10% of all that they had, leaving an example by Abraham, who gave at least 1/10 of all that he had by the order of Melchizedek. Now, unless you go study this for yourself and be like the Bereans, you go study it for yourself. You search the scriptures. It didn't say search the New Testament. It didn't say search all these other books. It didn't say search some theologian. It didn't say search the commentaries. It says search the scriptures and do it for yourself. And that's what people go off. And then they get mad, they get bitter, and they get upset because they were deceived, because they didn't want to listen to nobody like me who've been telling them the truth for a long time. Listen, I'm going to tell you right now that tithing is still part of the institution. Whoever told you that the law is done away with and all this old other stuff, man, they have been the ultimate Diablo. They have been the ultimate deceiver. And see, and some of you should be glad to be able to give an offering or a tithe of all that you have. You should be glad, because now if you want to jump and you really want to get perfect and you really want to get very serious about going forward, I'm going to give you some scriptures I want you to read that are the most avoided scriptures or the most avoided passages that is in the New Testament. Because many of you are offended at the Old Testament because they have messed up your mind so much to make you so offended at the Old Testament that anything that is written in it, the only time that you ever want to give heed to it is if it's something that's going to benefit you, i.e. deliverance, or if you give a sin offering or something like that, and it's coming back, or like the Christians fleece people for thousands of years. Give. And they keep talking about it over and over and over again. Let me get rid of this real quick. They keep talking about it left and right. Give. So let Pastor Dowell set the record straight, and let's just go from the New Testament. I'm telling you right now that all you people out there jumping on the bandwagon, pointing the finger, say I told you so. You ain't finished yet. There's more that is required of you. I want you to get your pen and get a sheet of paper. And I want you to read a passage of scriptures. Now, the book says that Yahshua, Jesus the Christ, Jesus the Messiah, he said to his disciples in Luke 14:33, unless a man forsake all that he hath, he cannot be my disciple. Taught one. That's what disciple means. Watch this. How many of you are claiming the faith of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? The Israelites. How many of you have forsook all that you have? I would venture to say 99.9% of you have not forsaken all that you have. So therefore, if we just go personally only by what the statement of the Messiah said, that means many of you are not his disciple. You're not his son or daughter. You're not his taught one. See, now, let's see what the justification comes at. Let's see what happens now. Let's see what happens now. You remember the parable where there's this rich young ruler. I want you to go search it out. And he came up to Yahshua, Jesus, and said, good master, what must I do to inherit eternal life? That's easy. Keep the commandments. Keep the commandments. He said, man, the young man said, man, I've done all this from my youth up. Then he said this, what lack I yet? How many of you New Testament believers out there? See, I'm telling you, just when you start pointing the finger and laughing at somebody else, Pastor Dowell, the reason why I can talk like this, because I've met these conditions and been done met these conditions 30 years ago, and some 12 and almost 13 communities later is where people are getting free. We've done put this to the test, and we're living it today to show you that we're a living testimony. So you are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses, but, you know, people love putting forth the finger and mocking and jeering, deriding and chiding and ridiculing and calling people all type of disparaging names, cults, fanatic, crackpots, kooks, and all kind of other stuff, especially when they themselves are weighed in the balances and they are the biggest hypocrites on the face of planet Earth. But Yahshua, Jesus, said, go and sell all that you have, and you have great treasures. And you know what the book says from there? And that little young ruler, rich young ruler, he thought about that statement for a second. He dropped his head, and the book said, and he went away sorrowfully. Don't that fit some of you? See, most of you think you can just give it up with your mouth. No, there's a physical giving up as well to prove what's going on in your heart. See, this is the message right here I keep telling you. You go back and look at my archives. I got plenty of messages. Some of them are labeled like this. A message that you will never hear nobody preach except us. I'm telling you. And so when it comes to this forsaking all stuff, we ain't going to do that. But see, it's not only during the time of Messiah that he was giving out this. I got a note right here. Yahshua said in Matthew 19:21, if you want to be perfect, what did he say? Same thing. Go and sell all that you have. You're not going to hear these preached amongst the Israelites. You're not going to hear this preached amongst the Christians because nobody wants to be in this level of obedience. It's amazing how, though he was rich, yet he became poor. He divested himself of all things, all riches, all glory, all majesty, all power, everything. And the reason why he can demand that of us is because he's done it himself. And now you got all these stage playing hypocrites, preachers and teachers, false preachers and teachers, false prophets, false apostles, all of them. They want to try to sit up there and claim to be disciples or representatives, but they will not preach and teach what I'm telling you right now. They ain't going to do this one. They won't. They will avoid it like the plague. They will avoid it like the plague. Because you know why? It brings conviction upon them. And you know why? It brings conviction upon them, and they themselves can't do it and will not do it, and nor are they going to teach you to do it. So therefore, you have a deceiver and an antichrist right there in the midst of you. Now, after the death, burial, and resurrection, after being impaled on the tree, and being buried in the tomb and then being resurrected, the Messiah gave the disciples, the apostles, everything that they needed for a blueprint to get going. And you know what they did over in Acts chapter 2 besides receive the baptism of the Holy Spirit? He told them over in Acts chapter 2, verse 43 through 45, there was Apostle Peter speaking. And you know what he said to him? He said, and all that believe were together. Do you believe? Do you really truly believe in him, or you believe in a false religion? Because he said all that believe were together and had all things common. And no man had anything that he called his own. But you know what they did before that? They sold all their possessions, all their lands, everything they had, laid the proceeds of it at the apostles' feet, and distribution was made amongst the Israelites as every man had need. How many folks you know doing that today? How many people do you know doing that today? You got people claiming to be Hebrew Israelites, and of course, if you claim to be an Hebrew Israelite, you're supposed to be an agricultural person, right? People, right? And yet and still, they're stuck in the cities. They have no lands. They have built nothing. Even the commandments in the Torah and the prophets, and also in the New Testament, that he will bless the labor of your hands. Get out there and build. They refuse to do it, won't do it, can't do it. But they will sit out there and condemn everybody else on the street corners. The Christians ain't going to do it because they're too busy using our book to deceive and give everybody else a bunch of fairy tales and lies so they can make sure that they filled up the measure they cup through that deception, through that satanic doctrine, and think it's all about a fuzzy feeling and feel good without obedience in action and doing something. And everybody going to have a lot of people going to hell. No wonder the prophet Isaiah said hell had to enlarge itself because there was a lot of souls going there. And then over in Acts chapter 2, Acts chapter 4, started verse 34. You had Joseph and Jannes. They went and sold everything that they had as well, showing you that this is a New Testament concept. Why? Because it's the same thing as old. Ain't nothing new under the sun. But you don't hear these so-called priests, prophets, preachers, teachers, captains, lawyers, scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites, apostles, false prophets. You don't never hear false witches, false women preachers. You don't ever hear none of them talking about this. Nobody is interested in obeying the King, Yeshua, Jesus the Christ. Nobody's interested in doing that. And nobody's interested in obeying him enough to forsake all and sell all that they had. So guess what? They're telling you they don't want to be perfect because in this life, they want to have their cake and eat it too. You just heard the truth. This is the truth Straitway. I'm glad that Clefto, Dowell, and Benny Hinn came out and tell the truth. Let's see how many of you people have a godly antipathy enough that you will get away from these false prophets and false teachers who have been misleading you. Let's see if you will really truly obey what the book says. Now, Pastor Dowell, here I am. Like I said, I went to, where is it? I got a thing. See that right there? This one right here says Hebrew Man of the Year 2019. I was awarded that by some people I didn't even know who watched my footprint and footwork, and they awarded me with the Hebrew Man of the Year. They gave me a little award and stuff and notoriety, the recognition and all this stuff. I preached it there. You can go and type it in on here, Hebrew Awakening, Pastor Charles Dowell. And I gave these people the same message, pretty much what I'm telling you now, but to a greater extent. And all these people, I preached a message up there, no more than maybe 35, 40 minutes. Same thing. And many of them said, oh yeah, when we leave here, we're going to do that. And man, R. Kelly, he got all mad and everything and stuff. And people got, it's just crazy what went on. But you know what? They still ain't delivered. They still stuck in these cities. And many of you are still in bondage. And since that time, we have went from like 3 or 4 communities to 12 communities, to where we live set apart, living a quiet and peaceable life. Agricultural people growing our own food. storing food. We train. We get ourselves ready for every possible scenario that we can possible. And yet and still, I notice the silence is deafening now. People who used to point fingers at us, now they're no longer doing it. You know what they're doing now? Some of them are so full of pride and arrogancy that rather than pick up the phone and humble themselves and say, Pastor Dowell, we would love for you and your elders to come out to teach us and to show us how to do exactly what this Bible says. Forsake all, sell all, give all, so that all the Israelites can live a good, quiet, and peaceful life. Nope, ain't no man, too many people doing that, but they sure are comfortable in those cities. They sure are. Where all this killings and murders and school shootings, parade shootings, and drive-bys and robberies and quick stop robberies and road rage and whoa, And what we just got finished eating? We just got finished eating a steak dinner from cows that we raised our own self, produce that we grew in our own gardens. And we thank the Father for obedience of it. But I know one thing, people used to, they love being false witnesses and bearing false witness against Straitway. And people, I tell you, it sure would be nice if people would actually listen to the people who accuse me. It sure would be nice if you would peer into the accuser's life, see what they're all about. Because most of them hide behind voice overtures. Most of them are secretive. You can never come visit them. You can never come fellowship with them. None of that. You can't do any of that with them. But they want you to believe every accusation and every word that they say, the stage playing hypocrites that they are. Well, I'm going to tell you right now that just because Clefto, Dollar, and Benny Hinn came out and let the cat out of the bag, that they've been preaching this prosperity doctrine wrong. Because the book says, beloved, I wish above all things that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. And they say nothing about money, nothing at all. But they used it, they twisted it. They wrested the scriptures to their own destruction. And now they're trying to get out of the flames of hell because they've been living all these years. They old now. And they've lived lavish lives while other people have been struggling and hurting. Oh boy, isn't that amazing? Remarkable, isn't it? So, and then these so-called Hebrew Israelites, and including the Hebrew Roots movement. I don't care who it is. You got people always trying to deflect from what the message is and trying to make their own movements. I don't care who it is. None of these people are obeying what that book says. Many of them have tried. They'll put their hand to the plow, and then they figured out, man, this plow is too much for me. And then they found out they wasn't fit. They looked back, and what does the book say from there? They're no longer fit for the kingdom of God. I had people say, oh, my name is Pastor so-and-so. Put their hand to the plow. All of a sudden they get a revelation, I'm not a pastor no more. Can't handle it. Can't handle the real true walk in the way. It is sad what's going on today. So don't be so quick to jump on the bandwagon out there on Facebook of people pointing out these people's flaws when you're sitting there with a big-ass mote. No, a big-ass beam in your own eye. You see the mote that's in there, but you still got a beam in yours because you still are not yet obedient to what Yahshua commanded us in this day, time, and hour. So don't get arrogant. I know it cuts. Yeah, this word will cut you. And if you got anybody out there who disagrees with this message that Pastor Dowell is saying, just have them to contact me, but only if they are a leader. I don't want to deal, I got too much stuff to do. And if you're interested in what we're talking about and want to learn more about it, the number's right here. Call, leave a message. We'll get back to you. But I will tell you one thing, your liberation and your freedom in Messiah in this world is not the Christian doctrine or the Hebrew Israelite doctrine or the Hebrew roots doctrine or the Messianic doctrines. These are all fabrications. These are all the forms of godliness that denies the power. And the book teaches you, when them things come from such, you turn away. You see, they that preach the message must live the message. That's the reason why my words have so much impact. Because you can call me all the names you want, but one damn thing that Pastor Dowell is not. No, two things. I'm not a liar and I'm not a hypocrite. That you can believe. So let's see how many people are going to be so motivated to put this out. Share this on Facebook. Download this video. Put it on your channel. Get it out there on YouTube. Let's see. Everybody's motivated about sticking Clefto Dollar's face and Benny Hinn's face up there. Now stick my face up there with this message, and let's see how people fare. I hope that you can get it. I really truly do. But I do know one thing. There's only going to be few that's going to be saved. And I'll tell you one thing. You better make sure you come out of her, my people, and not only come out of her, but come out from among them, and be you separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing. Then he would receive you. Well, hope it says something to stimulate thought. Let's see how well this fares. You heard the truth, and the truth straightway. Shalom. The King is coming.